Hi, my name is Emily Nicosia, and I'm applying to be the head women's softball coach at UAlbany. Before I get started, I just want to discuss a little bit of my past coaching experience, some attributes that make me a great candidate for this job, as well as a couple things about me. So, to begin, I went to high school at Williamsville North High School, and I graduated from Canisius College with a health and wellness degree and a minor in strength and conditioning. I was a 4-year starter for the softball team at Waynesville North, as well as a 4-year starter at Canisius College as a pitcher. I think this experience of playing since I was 7 or 8 years old puts me in a great spot of knowing the game of softball and being prepared for anything in a coaching position. Some qualifications that I have for this position is I am very prepared, organized, proactive, determined. I show great leadership, and I'm very concerned and I care about each girl on my team, each athlete as a whole person, as well as school. And I not only want them to become a great athlete, but I want them to become a great version of themselves outside of college, in the work field, anything that comes their way. My coaching experience is I've coached lessons at a softball facility for years. This is where I assess girls. I make lesson plans for them. I make things to help them fix their form. I evaluate them. Definitely make improvements in their, style. I've worked hitting camps, pitching camps. I've coached a lot of individuals. I've coached teams by myself before in camps and in tournaments, which I think that type of experience definitely puts me in a great spot for this position. So to get started in my coaching philosophies, to start off is the humanistic approach. So with this approach kind of focuses on the whole person. So instead of kind of focusing on, little things, it focuses on the person as a whole, creativity that each person has, their uniqueness, their nature as a human being. So I think instead of one person teaching another directly, he or she can only facilitate their learning. I think it's important to understand that each girl on this team has different choices, different creativity styles, different values, and I think it's important to understand that and realize that each person is different amongst themselves, and each person has to have their own freedom and responsibility, and I think that is definitely important when dealing with a whole group of 15 to 25 girls depending on the roster. So I think that's definitely a really important coaching style. My second coaching style that I think is very important is inquiry-based approach. So I think in order to make my girls the most successful that they can be on and off the field, I think they need to understand that failing is okay to an extent. I think that making mistakes is an essential part of learning, and that we need to talk amongst each other and amongst the team in order to kind of discuss about what works for us, what doesn't. So, for an example, doing a random defensive play, and the girls do it and they don't like it. They come in for a team talk, they talk about what they didn't like, what they did like, kind of fix it, and then go on and see if another play works, more successful or something like that. So the biggest thing is talking amongst your players, communication, in order to formulate the best strategy that works for those girls specifically. So definitely testing things, seeing if it works, seeing if successful solutions come out of it. My third approach would be solution-focused approach. So I think kind of coinciding with the last approach, that when a student fails, I think that we should minimize the criticism that we give them. So I think that in order to be positive and give positive criticism, I think we need to go about it a different way than rather than putting our players down. Maybe that works for some people, but I know for me, when I used to play softball, that didn't work for me. So people need to we need to allow our players to promote, divergent thinking, creativity, and a positive approach to learning. And in this way, I don't think that when an athlete fails that we should, not just throw that solution out completely. I think that we should work through it and see how future focused we are, and making mistakes will happen, and it is a part of learning. And not only, I personally don't think that the coach should be involved in everything all the time. I also think that the players should be independent of their coach sometimes, focus things or figure things out for themselves and figure, okay, that didn't work. What's going to work for me the best? Maybe it doesn't work for the person next to me, but it might work for me. So my other approach is making learning positive. So using this theory and sense of coherence model, I think that in order to encourage and maintain good health, physically, mentally, we need to incorporate comprehensibility, manageability, and meaningfulness when it comes to a specific situation. So, if someone makes a mistake or someone wants to maintain good health, they need to look at a situation and they need to say, okay, so did this, situation happen by accident, purposefully? Is it chaotic? How am I going to handle the situation? Can I physically deal with it? Can I emotionally deal with it? Do I know how? Can I? And does this situation actually make sense in my life? How am I going to go about it? Stuff like that. So I think making learning positive is extremely important, that we need to always keep a good mental health, going within the season. It does get crazy. So I want my girls to be able to be happy and assess a situation positively instead of always, looking at the negative spectrum of things. And my last coaching philosophy is definitely important to me personally, mind-body approach. So when I was a Division I softball player, I wasn't fit when I came into college, and I lost a boatload of weight, in a short amount of time. And this led me to constantly worrying about my weight, what I looked like, always being skinny, not so much worrying about how good I felt when I played. I constantly felt weak. And so I want to incorporate with my players that I want to have bi-weekly meetings of what my players are eating, how they're feeling. Are they feeling tired, weak? How are we going to, I want to assess it, and I want to go from there, make them as successful as they can be. In today's society, a lot of girls struggle with, weight concerns, including eating disorders, anorexia, binge eating, thinking they're bigger than they are, or whatever. So in order to become the best athlete we can be, I think we need to fuel ourselves with the appropriate nutrients. And going from there, I think that having a nutritionist meeting, maybe on the weekends, something like that, after practices, I think that's important in order to, be informed about what foods are great for us when we're trying to be a successful Division I athlete. So going into an example of my training program that I would have is I would create a table, and I would have a column for my start time and end time to everything. I would have a column for my objective for that day or for that time slot, what activity we're doing, where on the, turf, field, gym we're doing it, and what equipment we need. I think this is a great approach because it keeps us very organized about, who's going where, what time we're setting up at, what time we're ending at. That way everyone's prepared. Everyone always has a place to be. No one's ever just standing around, because I think if we have a certain time slot per day, I think that if we make the most of that time slot, we're going to have success and we're going to become even better players than we were yesterday. And on the weekends, I think that, we are going to incorporate, weekly meetings about the eating habits and the body image, which, incorporates some of my philosophy, as well as talking about what would happen between 7 and 7:30 p.m. is players discuss each play and try it out without discussing, with the coach, and discussing what worked and what didn't. This way, the coach isn't involved. They personally have their own opinions about, what worked, what didn't. They felt it out. They're the ones playing on the field. This is another example of the coaching philosophy, is that, for inquiry-based learning, like, they need to figure out what's best for them, fail. They need to try things out, and then they'll succeed. And then having a 5-minute mental routine at the end of every practice, I think, is very important with positive learning. So lastly, why I think I am good for this position is I am a lot different from other coaches, where I focus on the creativity and uniqueness of each individual. I don't think every player is the same, and I don't think that there's only one certain way of doing something in the game of softball or in life. I think everyone's different, and people need to be coached different. So I need to look at person X differently than person Y. I think that they think differently, they have different emotions, we need to kind of look at everyone differently and understand that each person is unique in their own way. I also think that I am a great coach because I focus on people's academics, not only just their success on the field, and I focus on life after college, not only being a student athlete, but I want to make them great on the field, but I also want to make them great people outside of college. In the real world, I want to have them prepared for work. I want them to believe in themselves, to be confident. And I think that's very important because I have dealt, with very unique coaches, and not in a bad way, but they've made me the people I am today. And finding that coaching philosophy that inspires other athletes, I think is so important, and it makes you personally a great person. And I have learned from some of the best coaches that I've had, and I want to be that coach for other girls, younger Division I softball players. And I want girls to not only have to just listen to their coaches, I want them to talk amongst their teammates. I want them to communicate, and I want them to see what they like and what they don't like in order to succeed on the field. So I think I'm a very good candidate for this position. And yes, thank you for your time.